Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 211 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew this week, starting off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
It's going well, Seth. What's up?
I'm excited. We actually have a lot to talk about this week. Last week was a little quiet. We did our fun Commander show, but this week we actually have a big amount of news to get to, so it's going to be fun to talk about. Before we do, we also have with us content creator extraordinaire Krim. What's up, Krim?
It's quite a title you've given me there. Nothing much. Just excited to talk about, all those things that you'd mentioned, because a lot has happened in this past week.
Yeah, so the plan for today, and we got a bunch of different topics. Our main topics, first off, we had a teaser trailer for War of the Spark, our last set of Ravnica block, quote unquote, since we don't really have blocks anymore, but the final set of our Return to Ravnica that's coming up in a little over a month now. So we're going to talk about that. We have a Pro Tour coming up this weekend in Cleveland, so we're going to kind of preview the Pro Tour, talk a little bit about where Standard is at heading into the Pro Tour based on GPs this weekend, Magic Online, Arena results, whatever. Also, we had a kind of unique banning this past week, Nexus of Fate, but only in some parts of Standard, so we want to talk about that. And then we have a couple other topics, guild kits, MSRP no longer being a thing that we'll get to if we have extra time before we get to Fishmail. So that's kind of the plan for today. Before we jump into it, though, a reminder that our show today is brought to you by spikesacademy.com, the world's first Magic the Gathering e-learning academy. They have some really neat courses from really awesome players like Paulovito Rosa and Reed Duke, and you can check them out over at spikesacademy.com and even get 10% off with the discount coupon code GOLDFISH. And to learn more, check out Spikes_Academy on Twitter. So thank you to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. And with our sponsorship stuff out of the way, let's start off with a fun topic. Have you guys seen the War of the Spark trailer? And if so, what did you make of it?
Yes, I watched a Saffron Olive first impressions video.
Not only was it a first impressions video, that was my first ever first impression video. I've never done that kind of content before, so that was fun, different.
I think he led me astray on some of the Planeswalker predictions. I don't know. I'm going to have to type some angry YouTube comments. I was like, he's like, is that card? I'm like, that's not card. What that's clearly not card.
Yeah, there's one I was like, that looks like a troll thing. Is there a troll playing block where it's over? It's like, no, that's a Johnny. I was like, oh, that's a troll thing, a Johnny. That's pretty far off.
Seth being the troll. But yeah, the trailer's pretty sweet. So it's basically a spire. It's been a while that I forgot. But it's basically like a tower with stained glass on the outside. And you're zooming in and we're rotating around and you see outlines of a bunch of planeswalkers. And then finally, you zoom in close, and then you see 3 planeswalkers in full sight, and then it says, War of the Spark.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. You zoom in on the 3 planeswalkers, and then it zooms inside the building, and you see a bunch of candles, and the candles start blowing out until there's just one candle left, and then you see the War of the Spark, and the candle smoke makes, like, bolus horns, which is pretty cool. I was impressed by the quality of the spoiler, and I didn't talk about it too much in my impressions video, but Wizards has had some like meh advertising in the past, at least in my opinion. Sometimes it comes across a little like amateurish, but this time I saw this, I was like, wow, this looks like a really professional video or trailer, and it's something that even if you didn't really know Magic, it just looked good enough and cool enough that maybe it would draw you in if you just saw this on YouTube or as an advertisement somewhere. So I was impressed with the quality of it. What did you think of it, Krim?
Oh, well, first off, when I saw, like, just pull it back a little bit, that stained glass part where you got to see all the planeswalkers, I had chills. And then when I saw, like, and Richard mentioned when the candles blew out and they formed the bolus horns, that was when I was, I was throwing things around my room with joy. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And like, you know, like you had mentioned, the cinematics of it has just, wow. It really wowed me. I could not I could not contain the joy I had. I mean, I've been talking about it like nonstop about a Magic the Gathering movie, but that's a whole other thing. So
yeah, that's the feeling I got from this. And I don't know what Wizards is doing, but I hope they live up to expectations, because it feels like it's like an Avengers-esque movie, right? Like the way they set it up, it feels like 30 planeswalkers are coming down and Bolas is going to rumble. And I hope it's like that, and it's not just a story with like 3 planeswalkers and they just happen to be in this chapel. So the way they spun it up, it seems like Civil War. You know, something's happening and there's going to be a big battle. So we'll see where it goes.
Bolas is gonna have a gauntlet.
Actually, I was hoping they'd throw a little like a little tidbit in there. You hear like Optimus Prime's like Autobots roll out or something, but no.
Oh, Hasbro.
Like that
is Hasbro, right?
It's Hasbro. It's War of the Spark. You know, Optimus just comes in. Like that'd be so sweet.
I mean, we had that crossover, right? The Comic-Con or whatever, the exclusive set, the Transformers Magic cards. This is it.
We
need
one that's not silver bordered. We need a black bordered one.
We don't want Transformers and black border Magic. At least I don't want Transformers and black border Magic. Although, interestingly, talking about movies and stuff, this wasn't on our topic list, but it probably should have been. Actually, a lot happened this week, but they had a bunch of news that came out at the Toy Fair this week, and one little tidbit that didn't really make a lot of sense to me until we were having this conversation is that Hasbro is going to report it under their entertainment and licensing segment rather than a game segment. Which, I mean, maybe you're reading too much into it, but that would, I don't know, suggest that they're treating it as something they're going to license, and maybe they're making the movie and stuff like that. So, I don't know, that little bit of tidbit is kind of interesting in the context of this conversation, I think. So, as far as the set itself, the rumor that I have heard from people, and obviously it's rumors, it's people talking, there's nothing confirmed, but it seems like War of the Spark is going to be Planeswalker theme. The rumor I've heard is that we're going to see actually every planeswalker in that video in the set, and that kind of lines up with something Mark Rosewater said on his blog, that this was art from the set and they made it look stained glass. But I actually think we're going to have 36 planeswalkers in War of the Spark, and we're going to see planeswalkers at the rare different rarities. Down at rare, maybe we get an uncommon planeswalker. But I think what Dominaria was to Legends, I think is War of the Spark for planeswalkers.
Whoa.
Tybalt.
Wait, do you think they'll all be planeswalkers, or are we gonna get like Gideon as like a 2/2 common or something? Like how can you have 36 planeswalkers in a set? That's gonna be insane.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be planeswalkers that lose their spark. I believe that. So like
that would be so.
This is how you write out the Gatewatch, right? Like you say like Gideon, Jace, because I know people are like, yeah, we're tired of seeing these planeswalkers, so let's put them back to being creatures or something like that.
That would be, it's like a 2/2 Gideon with first strike, and then you like fatal push him and you like, get out of my story. Like, wow.
I mean, that sort of lines up with the trailer too, where we saw all the sparks, the candles, like literally going out. So I think, flavor wise, it also lines up. We have like the Immortal Sun and Nicole Bolas trying to get rid of all these planeswalkers. So I think it lines up lore wise as well, and with the trailers. So I'm pretty hyped. What do you think of the idea, assuming that these rumors and all this stuff we're piecing together is right? What do you think of the idea of a Planeswalker theme set where we're having all these Planeswalker characters and all this crazy Planeswalker stuff going on? Like, what do you think of that idea?
I really like it.
Limited is about to be Limited is about to be crazy.
I mean, is it crazy? If everyone has a bomb, does anyone have a bomb? So,
but like these bombs are like, it's just like a way different style of play. I think that'd just be bonkers, right? Like, does that mean like Hero's Downfall gets like reprinted at Uncommon or something like that?
I feel like Krim was onto something with creatures. I feel like they're going to make some story shtick. Like, Bolas has shackled these 5 planeswalkers and they've lost their abilities. So now they're like 3/3s and 2/2s and stuff. So I feel like if this is the way, we'll get creatures. Or I don't know, like maybe someone gets turned into an artifact or something. Depends on how many people they want to kill off. because anyone who gets the status is going to die.
And I mean, we do have some context historically of characters having legendary creature cards and planeswalker cards. Like Venser has been creatures, Teferi has been a creature, Narset is another one. So maybe they're going to have a lot of these characters in non-planeswalker form is a interesting possibility, or at least some of them.
Tibble coming back as a one.
I would love to see that. And then I'd love to see like Urza maybe return and like be the only planeswalker or something.
No, I mean, no. What's going to happen is Emrakul's going to show up and slap Bolas around.
Oh man, please,
they're like, wait, no. Phyrexians, Nicol Bolas must buy
to the Eldrazi.
Yeah, that almost sounds believable. Like the last year and a half of Standard was just like a dream, and we're still back on Innistrad, and there's an Emrakul destroying things. And, way to go, Wizards! Good twist. You got us. I would think a Planeswalker base set would be incredibly popular. So I'm expecting this set to be really huge just because as much as people sometimes grumble about the power level of Planeswalkers, in standard and competitive formats, whatever, people love Planeswalkers. They are incredibly powerful. We sell Planeswalker decks because people love Planeswalkers so much. So I think if it really is a Planeswalker theme set, I expect this set to be absolutely huge, just based on like casual demand and people just loving that theme. So I'm really hyped. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out, and I hope they do it. I hope we have 36 Planeswalkers. I hope it doesn't destroy standard or limited, and they can figure out a way around having like, could you imagine like 36 Teferis in standard? Oh my god. That would.
I see that if this were true, I wouldn't see it as 36 Teferis. I'd see it as 36 Tybalts. Okay. Just a bunch of really bad planeswalkers where they're a liability. Like if you plus, they're a liability.
Well, they promised we would learn more at PAX East, which is the end of March. So I think that's maybe when we'll start seeing spoilers with the big PAX event. And then the set itself comes out, pre-release is the end of April, actually attached to a GP, which is kind of interesting. So we should know more roughly a month from now, 6 weeks from now. We'll start to actually get more information, but based on the teaser trailer, I'm more hyped now than I was before seeing the trailer, which, like I said, hasn't always been the case with Wizards advertisements. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, that's fine. But this one was actually really good. So I'm hyped. It's going to be sweet.
This is kind of my concern, though, because of how much like speculation there is on how there's going to be a bunch of planeswalkers. If it isn't that, I'm almost going to be kind of let down. So like, instead of hyping it up for myself, I'm just gonna be like, it could be anything.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Not going to turns out it's a set where they reset the power level of standard. And no one wants it.
It's great. Return to Dragon's Maze. Everyone will love it.
Yes. Just a complete, like, a curveball. You thought you were going to have planeswalkers, but it's not even close.
Well, let's move on from future standard in Or the Spark and talk a little bit about current standard. So this weekend, Magic Fest / Mythic Championship / GP / Pro Tour Cleveland, whatever you want to throw in there. It's happening in Cleveland this weekend. It's standard. It's limited. What are you guys expecting at this event? So first off, give us a little taste of where standard is right now, and then give me some Pro Tour predictions. Is there anything that you're looking at that maybe will break out by surprise, a sleeper, some sort of underdog deck or card? So what do you guys what are we preparing for this weekend, and what are you expecting this weekend?
I've played 0 games of standard since the new set released. No, I lie. I at least had a couple days where I was lighting up the stage and playing some mono red.
Oh, Richard, why?
But I haven't played any standard. I don't know what's going on aside from just reading people on both sides of the Nexus of Fate argument. Is there limited at this Pro Tour, or is this the one where we've cut it?
There is. There are 3 rounds of limited and then 5 rounds of constructed standard. So pretty much a traditional Pro Tour setup.
All right. So that's what I'm looking forward to since I've been playing a lot of draft on Arena. So,
what is your rank, Richard?
I hit Mythic rank right before this podcast.
Ooh, congrats. That's pretty sweet.
Trying to brush off the filthy casual on me a little bit, you know.
Are you trying to qualify for the PAX East event? Is that what you've been doing behind the scenes?
You cannot with the limited route, right? As far as I know.
No, yeah, it's constructed.
You should be lighting up the stage, trying to get to Boston or whatever.
There's only so much lighting up the stage you can do before you get bored.
So, Krim, what is our current standard like? What would you consider the best decks, the pillars of the format right now, a week before the Pro Tour?
Well, right now, about everyone is on that mono blue game plan right now. Mono blue, Sultai, those are extremely popular. And because of mono blue, I've seen an uptick in you either White Weenie or Azorius aggro, whichever one, what mono White Weenie at the core of the deck. Some white aggro deck has been, I've been seeing a lot of that. And I with the way the Pro Tour is now and how much time we have until the Pro Tour and how much information is out there, I don't see any new random archetypes coming out of the standard right now, but I do imagine a Guildgate deck. I think a Guildgate deck is going to be somewhere in high numbers at day 2. There will be a more refined list. Whether it'll be with Nexus or without, who knows? I mean, Grand Prix Memphis happened this past weekend and there was a Simic Nexus deck that top 8'd. So maybe they just shave all the Guildgates and, Bant as a whole, just chop the white and then just play blue-green. So, I could see a lot of that, but Rakdos mid-range also just won Memphis, and that looked like a really interesting list. I played against a lot of Rakdos on the ladder last night. A lot of Rakdos. And they are grindy games when I'm on Esper. Oh boy. Are they grindy. Richard, you'd love it. It's Jund. It's Jund. You just chop green.
Without the green. That's how good red and black are now. You don't even need green. That's actually true in modern.
I mean, have you casted a Tarmogoyf in 2 months? No, who needs to cast Tarmogoyf?
So I think for me, heading into the event, the pillars of the format, we have Sultai mid-range, which is probably the best deck if you had to just take one deck, at least the most played deck. The GP this weekend kind of backed that up. The new, hotness is definitely Mono Blue Tempo, which, if you look at the numbers from the GP this weekend, not only was it heavily played, but it kind of overperformed as far as conversion rates, getting into top 32, getting into day 2. So it seems like that's kind of the hot new deck. And then you have, as you mentioned, white-based aggro, and then I think Wilderness Reclamation decks are still there. And based on hearing the conversation of pros and people on Twitter, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of work is going into building the perfect Wilderness Reclamation deck, because I feel like if you can figure that deck out, it probably is the most broken card in standard, but it's not the easiest deck to get right and fight the meta with. And then I think Gates will show up as well. Is it Drakes? Mono Red has kind of been on a downswing, which is a little bit surprising perhaps. And then as far as surprise decks, I don't know if we'll see any brand new decks. That kind of seems unlikely to me. I think, as you mentioned, we'll see a lot of tuning of decks, best versions of decks we know, but I do think that we'll see some decks that are pretty underplayed right now. You mentioned Rakdos did really well at this GP. That's not a top tier deck by any stretch. Various angel-based decks are kind of floating beneath the surface. Mardu Aristocrats. So there are a lot of decks that maybe if you're just kind of casually following standard, maybe you haven't even seen them yet if you're not grinding all the time, playing all the time. So I think maybe some of those decks sneak up and surprise people. Maybe someone figures out the best version of something like that, or even Mono Green. There's a new Mono Green Pelt Collector Biogenic Ooze deck that is kind of starting to show up a little bit in standard. So I think that those will be the new decks. Not oh my goodness, we've never thought of this before, but those decks that maybe they have 1-5-0 finish on Magic Online. Someone in the pro community figures it out and just does really well with it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That definitely feels like the way it's going to go. And much like you said, if there's a Wilderness Reclamation deck and it comes out of this fine tuned, it's going to be broken. It's going to be a monster. Going to be kind of hard to deal with.
So, Krim, where's your control decks at now? How are you feeling about Esper? I know it didn't have a great weekend, and maybe you could even argue that it's been replaced by Mono Blue as the best control deck in the format, if you want to consider Mono Blue a control deck. How do you feel about Esper going into the Pro Tour? Expecting a big weekend, or is it going to kind of be a second/third tier deck at the Pro Tour?
I think now with like how much Mono Blue and all this other stuff, like you kind of you can hate out. You know what you're hating out now. You know what you're preparing yourself for. What you can actually do to really like hedge your matchup percentages with Mono Blue on Esper. It's not much. I'm not playing Isolate, that's for sure. Like I'm not doing anything like that. I think that right now Esper is solid. I've had a very good run with it on the ladder, but the ladder versus the Pro Tour are two very different things. So I think I would like to say that Esper will show up though with like a more fine-tuned way to beat Mono Blue. Like Mono Blue is as you said the hotness right now, and because of that, it's Mono Blue I think is going to have kind of a bounty on it, and everyone's going to be kind of headhunting for it. So I personally would I've been testing and preparing to beat Mono Blue.
Yeah, and I think if you're playing on Arena, I think that's doubly important because I think it's even overrepresented in digital because it's so cheap to put together when it's doing well in paper. But on Arena, it's like the budget deck that you can get into without very many wild cards, which I think leads to even more people building it if they're trying to grind the ladder or whatever. Because that deck has like, 4 rares and no mythics or something ridiculous. I think it's just like Tempest Djinn is the only rare in your entire main deck.
Correct. And unless you sideboard Entrancing Melodies or you main deck some of those, outside of that, it's just Tempest Djinn.
Yeah, so it's a really good budget option, so definitely be prepared for it. And, oh man, that deck annoys me so much. I tweeted this over the weekend, but I think I personally get way more annoyed playing against Mono Blue than I do against Nexus decks. I would rather be Nexus Loop than Curious Obsession with Dive Down. Oh, boy, does that deck drive me insane. I don't get salty very often, but Mono Blue, oh boy, that deck pushes me right to the edge.
I definitely can see like maybe like your eye twitching whenever like they counter you and you're like just trying Spell Pierce. Of course you have a Spell Pierce.
They always have it. They always have the turn 2 Curious Obsession, and then they always have the Dive Down or the Spell Pierce. Oh my goodness, the luck of Mono Blue players. If I play, it's like Delver flipping in Modern, where if I try it, it happens like 30% of the time, but my opponents, it's like 97% of the time. That's what I feel like with Curious Obsession in Mono Blue and Standard, so.
I definitely have had that game though, where like I go like Thought Erasure and I see a hand like Curious Obsession, Dive Down, Wizard's Retort, and I just concede, go to the next one. I'm like, done. I don't want to.
Alright, so before we move on to our next topic, give me one prediction for Mythic Championship Cleveland, I guess is the proper name now.
Mm-hmm. MC1.
No.
Oh my god, the hashtag.
No Nexus of Fate on camera.
Ooh. Because it's not good, or because Wizards keeps those matches out of the feature match?
Because Wizards will keep it out. So they will not show it until they need to. So like, yeah, if it's the last round and you're figuring out if you can go to the top 8, they'll show it. But I feel that there will be a directive to not show Nexus of Fate at all. So in the early rounds, you will not see it. Because I feel there's going to be a big arena push during this, and it's going to be super awkward when people are like, I want to play that deck I saw at the Mythic Championship, and then it's banned in Best of Ones. So I feel like, you know how Wizards always tries to make it look more diverse and things like that in the early rounds? Well, they're going to cut Nexus of Fate out of this picture, I feel. So even if they're doing really well, you're going to have to find out through social media and things like that, as opposed to watching coverage.
You know what? I hope there's a ton of Nexus of Fate. And then it gets banned the day after.
Oh, you want it gone in best of 3 as well, huh?
Yeah, I want it gone in every way. So yeah, show as much Nexus of Fate as you possibly can, please.
What about you, Crib? Do you have a prediction for us?
Prediction? I think when Mono Red slides off the radar is when it finishes strong at a Pro Tour. It always goes that way, right? Like, Mono Red drops off, everyone's ready for it, everyone relaxes on the Mono Red, surprise, Mono Red is back. We've lost again.
It's the dredge of Standard, huh?
It really is though. Like, it's like, how many times are we like, okay, Mono Red has had a sharp decline in popularity, and then surprise, Pro Tour, whatever, Look at that. Mono red won again.
All right, let me get my account ready to grind into top 8 Mythic so I can show up and crush people.
This is the week to do it. This is the week to do it if it slipped off.
All right, for my prediction, I think someone's going to break it with Wilderness Reclamation. I feel like Wilderness Reclamation is breakable. I feel like so far we've seen like scattered attempts to really break Nexus of Fate by individual players, putting up results, Todd Anderson, Ilya Andrazi, people like that building good decks that are doing okay. But I really think when you get these pro teams mashed together in a room for a week or two, trying to break the format, I really think one of them is going to just break the format with a Wilderness Reclamation deck. And that's going to be the narrative coming out of the Pro Tour is Wilderness Reclamation, possibly with Nexus of Fate, but is it too good for Standard? So maybe that doesn't happen. I guess hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's going to be my prediction for the Pro Tour. Someone breaks it with Wilderness.
These are the exact opposite predictions. One is like, okay, Wilderness Reclamation. The other is like, light up the stage. With like the deck that's known since the beginning of time. So it'll be pretty interesting to see if the pros brewing together actually come up with something, because we've had a few pro tours where they're late now, and I feel like that hurts the pros. Their ability to brew and come up with things is lessened because the community has so much time to do this now. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull a rabbit out of their hat for this Pro Tour.
Well, speaking of Standard, we got some surprise Magic Arena Standard news. So out of nowhere, Valentine's Day, there was no scheduled BNR announcement or anything. Article pops up on the mothership. Nexus of Fate banned in Arena Standard, which means best of one Standard on Magic Arena. So what are your guys' takes on this surprise banning? Good, bad? Should they have went further and just ban Nexus everywhere? What do you think of having a split ban list between best of one and best of three? What's your take on this?
I think it's good. I don't know about the particular mechanics of Nexus of Fate because I haven't played best of one for a while, but best of one is a different format than best of three. And because it is a different format, it feels weird to try to keep the same ban list between the two. In a similar way, like a 1v1 commander, deck is technically a multiplayer commander deck, but you have a separate ban list because the dynamics of the game are different. Same with best of one versus best of three. So I am perfectly fine with them splitting it, and it's better that way. Like if you did not play Arena at all and you only played Paper Magic, and you'd be like, why is my Nexus of Fate banned? Like you could just sideboard and counter it or whatever, right? So I think it's a perfectly fine decision to split the ban list like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Two different formats, and they definitely need separate ban lists. And also that was like the best Valentine's Day gift of all time. So,
so I think they probably will have to have separate ban lists eventually if they're going to support both formats. I don't know if they needed to do it now. Like, I feel like Nexus is a card that you could have banned everywhere, and you probably wouldn't have got a whole lot of complaints because it's just so disliked. It seems almost like it would be a freebie to ban it. If anything, normally when there's bannings, people their feathers get ruffled and they get all bent out of shape, but I don't know if that would happen with Nexus because it is just maybe the most despised card that I can remember being in Standard for quite a while now. So I think that maybe in this case, even though they probably will need separate ban lists eventually, maybe they could have just banned it everywhere. I think this is fine. I think banning it in best of one is fine. I dislike that it makes it a little harder for Arena players to maybe get into the paper scene. Like if you only play best of one on Arena, then you show up at LGS and get Nexus looped, you're going to be like, wait, that's banned in Standard, right? What's going on here? So I think that's a little awkward, but it's probably unavoidable over the long haul.
It's probably much worse when you whip out your 15 extra cards designed to crush your opponent's deck, and they're like, "What? Like, why do you have that card that just turns off my deck?"
Cheating.
So I don't buy that argument of the transition is weird, but I don't know. I feel I see where you're getting. Like, if they ban Nexus everywhere, like no one really complains, so they should do it. But at the same time, like, why touch Paper Magic when you don't need to? Like. that might affect Wilderness Reclamation deck that we want to see pop up, right? So the fact that they allow it, I think, is fine. I don't even think it needs to be banned in best of one. Like when I played against it, it was fine, but you know,
Aren't
whatever.
you on red deck?
I think they
either they're dead or they loop me. Like, what do you want, right? Like, I don't know, right?
I think they were going to ban it in best of 3, and then they saw my tweet about how I'm already writing a tweet about for when they ban Nexus, and they're like, let's just ban it in best of 1. Maybe we can avoid this.
This gets around what Seth said.
It would be pretty hilarious if they printed a card, quote unquote, so bad that it wouldn't show up in standard, and then had to ban it in standard. Oh, the irony is just so good. So it's so Wizards. So I was hoping it would get banned anywhere just for the sake of that tweet, but that's neither here nor there. So have you been playing Arena Best of 1, Krim? I don't really play Best of 1 to any meaningful extent. Have you been Best of 1ing, and how much has this change actually impacted the meta?
So, I have played Best of 1, but I mean, right now my time is split about even with Best of 1 and Best of 3. And I personally feel like Best of 1 right now, I mean, I don't have to play like Unmoored Ego in the main deck anymore. So I don't have to like be worried about that card, that Nexus card anymore. So it allows me to build my deck in a way where I can just, in place of that Unmoored Ego, I could have that, I don't know, 4th moment of craving or another counterspell, another negate. I don't have to play and build my deck in a way where I'm split and torn between beating control decks, mid-range decks, aggro decks, and, well, Nexus.
So, are you seeing mostly the same decks, for the most part, just minus Nexus decks? It's not like, oh, the format's brand new because Nexus is banned. It's pretty much the same stuff, just, with decks being slightly tweaked and no Nexus floating around?
Yeah, it's just a lot of mono red. And, like, a lot of people lighting up the stage in Best of 1. I won't lie though. I mean, in place of the, Nexus, like, and whatnot, I've been seeing a ton of, like, Simic decks using, Wilderness Reclamation and going off with the Ooze army. So I've been seeing a lot of biogenic Ooze.
Yeah,
It's been pretty cool.
There are ways to still kind of use the shell, the Wilderness Reclamation shell. Like you said, Biogenic Ooze, Expansion Explosion if you want to go into Teamer. I've seen some people tweeting me March of Multitudes decks where they're using that as their big instant payoff for Wilderness Reclamation. So maybe we'll just see like a development of a less loopy deck. I will say, I really hope they still fix the underlying problem of Nexus of Fate on Arena, like how the client handles loops. I feel like this buys them a bit of time because there's no other like obvious loop in the format right now, but there will
but there
be.
is.
What is the loop that we have? No other good obvious loop, maybe.
It's not an obvious one. It was like trending for a bit, and it was like Caleb was playing a match, and both he and his opponent, there was like 3 hostage takers. And so one hostage taker would come down, take the hostage taker with the hostage taker underneath it, which would automatically come out and then eat the hostage taker, and then that loop just kept happening and they couldn't take any game actions.
I did see that. You're right. So
the O-ring
So
loop.
yeah, that is basically the O-ring loop. So there are still some loops. Basically, I hope Wizards still finds a way to solve the problem over the long haul, because there's always going to be something like this, and if people want to grief you and make you sit there for 2 hours, they're going to find a way. Like, there are ways that you can build your deck to do it. So hopefully they still solve the underlying problem with the client dealing with those type of loops. Anyway, any other thoughts on Nexus/Arena before we move on to our lightning round? We have a few topics to hit up real quick.
Please ban it in best of 3. As you said earlier, I don't think I've never seen so many people in unison just like, thank you, or yes, please. Like, wow.
We'll see. We'll see what the Pro Tour results are. I mean, I think if we end up with a extremely Nexus heavy top 8, who knows what'll happen. Although at this point, what do we got? 2 sets, and then we're to rotation in the fall, so you only got 8 months, 7 months or something till rotation, so maybe they
Jason Stoneforge got banned their last month before rotation, so...
Oh,
sure.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, lightning round time. We have 3 quick topics we were just going to hit really quickly before fish mail. So number 1, Krim, you were telling us earlier a new product come out on Friday. Why don't you tell everyone what released this past Friday in the Magic world?
I mean, for everyone that is like getting into Magic right now and wants to like, switch from Arena to Paper Magic or, like start picking up Paper Magic, the guild kits. We already knew about the guild kits. They were released though on Friday, like for sale to the public. And the guild kits are super awesome. The basics in there are amazing. They have the guild like logo around where, like the mountain symbol is and all of that. And they actually have a lot of good cards in there. I think they're like about $20 or something like that. And you get a ridiculous amount of like value. Also, if you're like an EDH player, there's lots of good like things in here. Like, we have like all the signets. And then you get like alternate art. So if you're a fan of promos, like there's an alternate art Rakdos Lord of Riots, or Teysa, Orzhov, Scion, and all that. And that, I personally just love it. I love the value that comes in these. And you get like I also collect pins, so naturally I would love this. They come with the guild pins. So this got released this past week.
Yeah, they look pretty sweet. Just looking over them, it's a lot of one-of type stuff, which is pretty typical of a pre-constructed deck. So it's not something like challenger decks that you're just going to necessarily like pick up out of the box and take to an F&M. They're not standard legal, all the cards either, although some of the cards are. But for just playing some casual games or adding to your commander decks, I think in general you get more than $20 of value out of probably all of these decks, just based on some of the high-end cards that are in there. So it doesn't seem like a bad way to just have some casual fun on the kitchen table, or maybe get some sweet cards for your commander deck or whatever.
100% agreed. Like it's sometimes like kind of difficult, like just like wanting like a 25-cent card and then ordering it online. Cause then it's like people won't send it unless you like, order at least like, I don't know, $5 worth or something like that. Right. So, these guild kits though come with all those things that you'd want for EDH, like all the signets and all that stuff, like I'd mentioned earlier.
Yeah. That seems like a fun product. So, well, that was topic number 1. Number 2, Wizards announced today MSRP going away, manufacturer suggested retail price. Do you have any thoughts on this, either of you, and what this means? It's kind of like a weird announcement that it's not obvious at first glance why it matters or if it matters. Any thoughts on no MSRP?
Does this mean there's going to be a price increase in like product now or?
So nothing has been announced from that. I've been talking to some LGS owners, finance types. Most of them seem to think that this is setting the stage for a price increase, because basically without MSRP, Wizards can increase the price that LGSs or whatever are getting product for from wholesalers. And then the price increase would be something that the LGS would have to do, or the individual retailers. And Wizards can just be like, well, we don't have MSRP. That's, you can sell it for whatever you want. So it might be a way for that to happen, with Wizards not having to officially raise the MSRP and look like the bad guy.
I mean, as long as it's, I don't know. Does that help LGSs out? I guess that does, right? I mean,
I think
no, because they could sell today. No one follows MSRP. Right? Like, when was the last time you bought a booster box for $140 or something?
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. I've never bought.
Everyone just prices at whatever they want to price, but it gives you guidance on when they release Modern Masters or Ultimate Masters or things like that. Their MSRP is higher than normal, so this thing is supposed to be more expensive. And what happens is then players turn around and be like, yo, this set sucks. The MSRP is too high. There's no value in here. Right. And then what happens is then it becomes like Iconic Masters where the stores like discount it. Right. So I think the whole lesson there is MSRP just makes people upset. So like just cut it out. And then the LGSs will find the right price level to sell it at, given kind of the EV or what people are paying for this thing. The weird thing is, like, what if you're a new store and you buy some guild kits? You're like, what am I supposed to sell this at, right? Like, am I getting a discount from my distributor or not? Like, it's a little weird like that. But for like the established stores like Star City Games or Channel Fireball, they don't care, right? They just make their own prices anyway. So probably okay. I don't know if it means price increase though, but I feel like the only time this is relevant is for their new premium products. So expect a master set, even though they said master sets are done, a master set equivalent coming soon, because that's my guess as to where this will actually become relevant.
And I think it does help with perception to some extent, where if you see the MSRP, we had some master set where the MSRP is whatever, $280 or something, and the normal price that they were sold for is like $240, but they ended up selling for like $110. And I think that looks bad, and it like reinforces the idea that the set is bad and the product is bad, because if it wasn't bad, why would it be selling for so far below MSRP? So I think there are some benefits on that end as well, even if the prices don't change. So I don't know. It's a hard thing to figure out. I don't have any solid like, oh my god, this is horrible, or oh, this is great. I don't know what to think. It's interesting though. So before I move to fish mail, I have one surprise topic that I didn't put on the list. So you guys are going to give me your very first initial reaction to this. And maybe you heard about it. They had the toy fair this weekend, and they had a huge 2.5 hour presentation from the Hasbro CEO, with a lot of it being focused on Magic. I don't know if I've ever seen them talk more about Arena and Magic in a presentation, someone from Hasbro, than this presentation. But the most interesting thing that came out to me is there are 2 new digital products in the pipeline that are coming out soon. One is Project M, and it seems to be like some sort of multiplayer battling game that's coming from an outside studio. The more interesting one was Project Blitz, which is a Magic game, a CTG that is designed specifically for mobile. So, have you guys heard of this? And what do you make of the fact that Wizards is building a mobile Magic CCG when Arena, it was supposed to come out on mobile, but then we've got some like weird non-committal, like, oh, we're working towards release, we're on Unity, so we could do this eventually, but no real like, okay, it's coming to mobile on this date, or even like 100% it's gonna be on mobile by release or anything. So what do you think of this new product, and what do you think it means for Arena coming to mobile, or does that not even matter at all?
Oh, I'm excited to see how the mobile app can handle like board states, like ridiculous tokens and a bunch of land. So I'm more excited to see how they handle that. And, and if like this is actually going to be a direct link to Arena, like, will it just be like how on like Hearthstone, I can log onto my computer or my phone in my account and have all the same cards? That's mostly, or is it going to just be an entirely separate product?
It sounds like from Seth's description, it's separate, right? I'm trying to imagine what a Magic themed CCG would look like that's not actually Magic, like Magic Arena. And I can't think of it, right? Like, why would you build this? Either you would build Magic Arena on mobile, which would, everyone is expecting this to happen, or you would just go in a different space like Puzzle Quest or, a fighting game or, something like that, right? But like, how could you build a second CCG? It's got to be like dumbed down Magic, but like, what does that even look like?
Yeah, it's confusing to me because I don't know why you would build 2 digital CCGs if it really is full normal Magic. Like, why not just figure out how to make a Arena, which is already getting so much hype and support? Why not just figure out how to make that work on mobile? Why make people like have a completely different game, download a different game, build another collection? But like you, I struggle to see, unless they're going to make it even more Hearthstonean, where it like limits the number of things you can have on board, in stuff like that, to make it like Magic adjacent, but make it work on mobile more than Magic would.
It's got to be like really different from Arena. I don't think it can be close to Arena, because otherwise they would just release Arena. So I'm thinking something like the Candy Crush of CCGs. I don't even know what that is, right? Like something super dead simple where you don't really need, it wouldn't be even close to Hearthstone because that's already too complex, right? If you're building Hearthstone, then you've kind of built Arena. So like, what is the point? So I feel like it's like you just have a Planeswalker, you cast spells, and then you win a loot box. Like, I don't know. It's got to be something like really fast. But yeah, that's weird and confusing. I don't know. They're really trying to cash in on this this Arena hype.
Do you think it's a bad sign for Arena coming to mobile? Or is that just reading too much into it?
No. I think we're reading too much into it. I think it's still happening. I think your $10 million, Mythic Championship money should be all you all that we're looking at for whether or not this is coming to mobile, right? Like if they're willing to hype it up like this, it means they're making a lot of money. So mobile would be the next step. So I believe this is extra in addition. I don't think they're taking people off the arena team to go work on this.
It's interesting. Definitely exciting to see how that stuff actually turns out. And hopefully, we get more details soon because, I guess more digital products is probably a good thing, especially if they're good. Anyway, any other thoughts on anything before we jump into our fish mail segment? All right, Richard, fish mail us.
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. Martin Lev, in light of last week's discussion on Commander, do you have any experience with Canadian Highlander as a format? 1v1 100 card singleton using the vintage ban list and a point system rather than a ban system for limiting the use of busted cards.
I really like the idea of Canadian Highlander. I think the point system is really cool, and I really like the idea of what that adds to deck building, but I haven't played it. It's not officially supported on Magic Online, so it's not an easy format for me to just actually test out. But it sounds like a really cool format that I would enjoy.
I had never even heard
it sounds
the rules.
Closer. Oh, you never heard of the rules?
No, I didn't.
So I think it's closer to like Vintage than Commander, right? Because it's 1v1. But basically, you have points. It's like 10 or 11 or something. And then like a Black Lotus is worth 3, a Mox is worth 2 or something. So you can put powerful cards in your deck, but you can't jam them all in because you'll hit your point limit. So you need to pick and choose what cards you want. The problem, like Seth said, it's not available on Magic Online. I don't own any Power, so I can't play it. Like that's it, right? Like it's too expensive, and it's a pretty niche format. So it's for people that already have all these cards, right? And then they can just play. I doubt someone's just buying this whole deck just to
It reminds me a little bit of Old School in that regard, where it seems fun and nostalgic, but it's for a pretty limited number of players who happen to have their cards from back in the day. Because I can't imagine too many people are going to go out and buy the Power 9 specifically for Highlander.
And before someone gives me a budget list, right, the whole appeal of this is to play with the old cards. It's like playing like unpowered fish or something in Vintage. You're like, you could do it, but the whole point is to be slinging like Moxen and Black Lotuses, right? That's kind of the fun of playing these old formats.
I do really like the point system idea, and I think maybe it would be cool to adapt that to Modern or something where you don't have the availability issues. It reminds me of like some fantasy sports games where you get like a salary cap and you have to make the best choices possible without going over like the budget of your salary cap, and players have a different like value assigned to them. It kind of reminds me of that. So I think it adds a really cool tension to deck building where like I'm looking at the point list. Black Lotus is 7 points, so you can play Black Lotus, but it's going to eat up most of your available points. Instead, for those 7 points, you could get like a dig through time is 1 point, a balance is 1 point, intuition is 1 point. So you could play a bunch of cheaper spells that are less points, or one really powerful, potentially game-winning spell. So I really like the deck building twist of it.
All right, next question. Flying Zebra. Krim is right to play the new Border's Shadow Mage Infiltrator. I only play cards in Commander that have a modern border printing, since otherwise the deck looks inconsistent and off theme. So many staples I can't play because of it.
Oh,
See, I told you.
I'm the opposite. I mean, I don't take it so far as to not play something based on a border, but my default is to old border the oldest version possible for everything.
Yeah, like
Johnny Magic sheds a tear somewhere.
Look, I still appreciate Johnny Magic, and I still like love my Shadow Mage Infiltrator. But if I'm building a Dimir deck and I want everything to look Dimir, like, come on, come on.
All right, you win the flavor argument.
Yes.
Flying Zero agrees.
I pass.
Next up, Swords Tool. If I start Magic Arena now, will I lose cards when the beta ends?
There are no more wipes.
Yes, so no. There is rotation, just like there is in paper, but you won't actually lose the cards, but it might be harder to play some of those cards once they rotate from standard, but you will not lose cards from your account anymore.
Yeah, they call it beta, but this thing is live. It's like how Gmail was in beta for like 80 years or something like this. It's beta, but we're having $10 million of championships on it, and like it's live. And they've already promised us no more collection wipes, so you should be good to go.
Yeah.
Clasp 2. Do you think Hydroid Crassus is a problematic card? Mana base allows for it to be played in almost every deck with 0 downsides, and I can't see clean answers to it. Looks like Thragtusk meets Sphinx's Revelation and the Eldrazi's Bless the Marriage.
I mean, it's a good card, and I definitely underrated it during spoiler season, but I don't think for me it's to the point where it's problematic at this point.
It's just a good card for me. I think it's a very powerful card, but it's definitely nowhere near bannable or anything like that.
And I mean, it takes a lot of mana to be good. It's not a card that you can just... it doesn't win the game quickly. It's probably the best finisher in Standard, but you still got to get up to like 8 mana, 10 mana for it to really be devastating.
Or 4 mana Wilderness Reclamation.
Thankfully, it doesn't have Flash. Oh, goodness. Then it might be bannable if you could flash it in.
That would actually just be Sphinx's Rev can like attack you.
Joshua C5704. What was the sequence of events that caused Richard to go from Legacy Spike to Filthy Casual?
I'm actually curious about this.
What? You've been with me the entire journey, Seth. You have witnessed this transformation.
I think it was... it's just like a slow, natural process. I don't remember there being any event where you're like, oh, I hate Modern Jund or I hate Legacy. He just kind of like started doing Commander Clash and just drifted in that direction.
Yeah, the website has a huge portion to do with it. So originally, when the first version of Goldfish, which was never released, was me building like a Magic simulator to figure out the optimal number of cards to play. Like, that's how spiky it was, right? Like I decided to spend like 15 hours or something building something to like optimally figure out, like, should I have 4 lightning bolts or 3 lightning bolts, right? But anyway, why I stopped playing Legacy was simple. I moved from Seattle to California. So in Seattle, it was really easy for me to play Legacy, and a lot of people play Legacy there. So that was the begrudgingly, okay, I'll play Modern. Modern sucks, but whatever.
Hey, that's how I met you.
Legacy, so. I was like, why am I casting, what's the bad preordained? Serum Visions. I'm like, every time I cast a Serum Visions, I want to just like cry. I'm like dying inside, right? I'm like, this card is so bad. And then I played a lot of Modern, and then Modern was the hotness, and I'm like, yeah, we'll Jund him out, and Jund this and Jund that, and Serum Visions is a great card. I'll even play Sultai because I want to cast Serum Visions for some reason. And then, I don't know, it just got harder and harder to go to FNM. So I stopped playing FNM, stopped playing Modern, and just started playing more Commander, I guess. And Commander's where the true fun happens, I believe. So, and I don't know, just life happened, like working and stuff. It's just hard to spend enough time to be quote unquote good at Magic, right? Like to spend a weekend and to fly to a Grand Prix somewhere is no longer acceptable to me. I'd rather just turn on Arena, light up the stage for 30 minutes and then call it a day, as opposed to spend literally like 4 days as you fly out to somewhere, stay overnight, play 12 hours of Magic, which I can no longer play, by the way. After like 3 rounds, I'm tired, right? And then like do it again if you day 2, and then go back home, right? It's just like a lot of effort. So playing one game of Commander Clash is much better.
Have you got to the point where you're building filthy casual Commander decks in paper yet, or no?
No, I have a couple, but I don't play Commander in paper yet. I'm not all the way there yet. So.
That'll be the next step, yeah.
So 1 year from now, I'll be like, guys, the guild kits just came out, and have you tried this Planeswalker deck? It is like so good. It's like a 15 mana Planeswalker, but you can make a 30/30, right? Like that will be me soon enough, right? And that is the beauty of Magic, right? I can play Magic on the spectrum of like, no time investment, just hop in any time, versus like I want to spend 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week playing Magic. There's some part of Magic for me. So I like my filthy casual status. It's good.
Honestly,
30/30s.
I think you've got an influence on me now, because I've started to build more EDH
the tournament
decks.
grinder.
I don't know why. I'm just like building more EDH decks now. It's probably Commander Clash.
It's the natural progression.
Uh-oh.
You're like, there's a better thing to be doing than casting Force of Wills.
Well, hold on.
Playing Haunt of High Towers.
But I want to cast Force of Will also in EDH.
That will change over time, my friend.
Oh no.
All right. Next question. Crazy 3 Drew. You mentioned this week Johnny Magic's card. Do you think going forward they should do this more, or why did they stop it? Using the winners or top 8 on Magic cards for new sets would give exposure, and it's a nice piece of history.
I would love to see invitational cards returned. I think it's such a cool prize. I think it's something that people would be really hyped for too if you did a tournament for it. And we've seen like these invitational tournaments being something Wizards is kind of bringing back, these big invite tournaments with lots of money, like the one at PAX East coming up. So I would love to see the return of invitational cards.
That'd be really cool. That would be absurdly cool to see invitational cards. I know, as I said that I want to use the new Shadow Mage Infiltrator, but look, there's something for everybody. I do.
The problem is they're off theme. They're off theme, and people like it doesn't match like the art direction or whatever. Like Magic now is very different. Remember back in the day, you had like the cartoony things and the weird fantasy art, and like you had all kinds of hodgepodge of styles, so it was fine. But nowadays, they want everything to look a certain way, so I think it's hard. But I do think I don't know how they like. You can make a land or something that's like Peach Garden Oath or something. I don't know. Like there's some way to do it to like fit it in, but it's like very difficult. So I don't think they're going to do it. Next question. Razorker, have you been keeping up with the Activision Blizzard news? What's your opinion on how Magic may be affected if Activision Blizzard cuts funding for Hearthstone? Wait, what? They're cutting funding for Hearthstone?
I think they fired a ton of people, right? After a profitable year? Something like that?
Yeah, that's, I've read a little bit on it. Basically, Blizzard, / Activision made a bunch of money last year, but still laid off 8% or so of their workforce. Although, I don't think from what I've read, any of that comes from actual game development. It's more the esports end, marketing end, stuff like that. Not that that makes it any better for the people that lost their job, but I don't think they are really pulling any support from Hearthstone at this point, from what I can tell. So, I don't think it has a huge impact on Wizards or on Magic, and it feels like Wizards and Hasbro is pretty all in or very in on Arena at this point. So I don't expect there to be any immediate consequences from that. I just feel bad for the people, especially after a very profitable year to lose your job. That's rough.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Competitive non. Seth, do you think you have brewed more decks than Richard has played games of Jund?
Probably not. I don't know.
How long have you been doing this? 4 years? 5 years?
4-ish years, I think.
4 years, and like we'll call it 3 decks a week, 150 decks a year, 600 decks. Have I played more than 600 games of Jund? Let's see. One F&M would be, let's say it's 4 rounds at 2 games each. One F&M is 8. So in a year, you'd have like 200? It's kind of close. I don't know.
I think I will probably get there eventually, since you're not playing Jund and I'm still making decks. So maybe in another couple of years I'll pass you.
Do I need to play Tarmogoyf?
You're going to have to play Jund just so I
Bless your heart, Richard. Bless your heart.
It feels so bad. Okay, anyway, we won't talk about Jund. Captain WoW 26. Why hasn't Temur or Sultai been successful in Modern? Also, what is the best breakfast food?
I do like breakfast foods. Breakfast foods are the best foods. I'm going to say omelet. I really like omelets. They have a little bit of all the good breakfast foods in them.
I would go with waffles, but I don't like breakfast.
Ooh. I would eat breakfast for dinner if I could.
I
actually
do not like it at all.
So would you eat? So you wouldn't eat breakfast food for lunch and call it like a brunch?
No, I don't do brunch either.
Right? Like,
I don't do brunch either.
Because I know people that don't wake up early and eat. Like they don't want to eat at 8 a.m., but they'll be willing to eat at like say 1 p.m. and eat bacon or bacon and eggs or something, right?
Yeah, you're not going to catch me eating bacon and eggs at like 1 p.m. either or 8 p.m. or whatever time.
Wow.
Like I will, I do like bacon.
Do you wake up in the morning and eat like a steak? Like what does your first meal of the day look like?
Actually, the funny story is back when I was on the road doing the music stuff, and we'd stop early. Everyone would go into like a Denny's or something, right? Like that's wherever we were stopping. I would just get spaghetti. Spaghetti. Wow. Spaghetti at like 8 a.m. Let's go. Load them up.
I do that too, but sometimes out of laziness.
Oh no, it's
like
not
we
that.
have leftovers. We have leftovers, like whatever. This is now breakfast.
Spaghetti, steak, whatever. Give me give me that. I'll take that for breakfast.
As far as Sultai and Temur in Modern, I think those color combinations do show up. We just played like Sultai Wilderness Reclamation, some like Scape Shift decks are Temur. So there are those color combinations, but as far as like what you would think of those decks in Standard showing up in Modern, I think they're just a little bit fair is the biggest problem. Those color combinations, you get a lot of good value-y cards, but you end up with just like a worse version of Jund or one of the best fair decks in the format.
I'm pretty sure these color combinations sound like color combinations that Krim has destroyed me with, so I'll let him describe these random blue-based decks that are not popular in Modern.
Temur was not good. Okay, I'll retire the Temur one. Okay, I put that one to rest. All right, but the thing here is Sultai, I think, is still sweet. Actually, Sultai might just be the perfect middle ground between you and I, Richard. Right, you still do the Tarmogoyf things, right? But you still play Snapcaster things. So why not? And you still play Jace the Mind Sculptor and Liliana of the Veil. It's both of our decks just literally thrown together, Richard. I don't.
Yep.
I think it's actually kind of playable. I mean, I see Sultai probably doing better than Jund, to be honest.
Yeah, because Black has all the Tarmogoyfs you need between Gurmag, Angler, Tasigur, and Death Shadow. Mm-hmm. Like, why play this 4/5 that's like useless? And in fact, your Tasigur assassinates the Tarmogoyf by delving away everything and making it a 0/1. So sad face for Tarmogoyf.
And then
but yeah, Sultai is interesting. The question is it better than Jeskai or whatever the predominant control or mid-range deck is, but I think it's playable.
But see, Jeskai is still like a little more on the control-y side of it. But this one, you trade your burn spells and a ton of counter spells for, I guess, and like, counter spells and whatnot for like more discard spells and stuff like that. So you get to do that, and you get to, play Assassin's Trophy, which is oddly pretty fun in Modern. I've been enjoying it.
All right. Last question. Johnny Vipers, how do you feel about an arena-only set? A set similar to Unset, where it's only drafted, and this set would specifically be played on Arena.
They already did that. Well, not a set, but they had already Arena-exclusive cards. I don't like
which are technically legal in Arena Standard, by the way.
Right.
They are.
Right.
But they're so bad. Like, they are so bad. I tried to force one to work, and they're so bad.
Remember Nexus of Fate?
Yeah.
Like one day they're gonna build something and it's gonna be all the rage. So
yeah. See, that one is one where like if it becomes all the rage, where like Seth talked about it earlier, transitioning to paper, they're like, well, I have this amazing arena exclusive based deck that is doing really well, but I can't do it in paper.
Yeah, that's my concern. I could see it happening. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't really like it. I think I like my digital Magic to mirror my paper Magic, so I'm not a big fan of the idea of it. Maybe if it wasn't actually legal and it was like an unset that you did for random draft events and stuff, it would be fine, but I wouldn't like it if if you had a whole set of cards that were legal on Arena that weren't legal in paper.
All right, so we're out of time, but I want to put this last thought with you guys. So suppose you're an Arena player, okay? And you spent $100 on Arena, right? And you were planning on spending an additional $100. Do you think Wizards would rather you spend that $100 on paper Magic or on Arena?
I mean, I guess Arena. I assume they
The
make
answer's
more
gotta
money
be Arena, right?
on Arena, but yeah. I mean, I guess that's true.
So that means they're not necessarily trying to funnel people into paper Magic, right? Like they want to keep them on Arena. That's making them money and growing the thing.
I
So
think the problem is like
that's just an interesting thought that just came up.
the problem is paper Magic has been around 25 years, and digital games tend to have pretty short lifespans. So while from a short-term perspective, you probably make more money in Q1 of 2019 with the $100 on Arena. Over the next 25 years, you probably make more money by getting players addicted to a paper game that is going to stick around for a while, presumably.
See, I was actually going to say that I would spend that $100 on paper because I already spent it on Arena. But I don't know.
Ooh. Interesting thought to cap off our fish mail there. If you have questions, you can send them in at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I think that brings us to the end of episode 211 of the Goldfish podcast. So, Richard, Cribb, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. And one more time, thank you to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. You can get 10% off at spikesacademy.com with the code Goldfish. So, next week, we will be back to break down all the happenings from the Pro Tour and anything else that happened in the Magic world over the week. So, until then, this is the crew signing out.